everyone, this is Mindy Eggen for Scrapbooking Cards Today magazine, and today I am going to be creating a project with the Let's Stamp Together kit for May 2025 featuring designs from Picket Fence Studio. So first we have the clear stamp set with these tulip images, sentiments, coordinating die, and then we have a coordinating stencil. Now the stencil is going to line up so you can color your tulips and then shift it over and color your leaves. So it's just a single layer, but I am going to step it up, adding dimension to my flowers using multiple colors of ink for each section. I'm going to start by placing both images onto some white cardstock, and I am going to be using the Stamp Wheel 2.0 from Altenew. I'm going to pick up my images using that top plate, so I'll flip it over, and then I like to either rub my hand over my images or condition it with some Versamark ink to just get that primed and ready to accept ink. Then I'm going to stamp it in a light gray ink. So I like to start with a light color first, especially for an image like this that has a lot of detail and lot of lines to it. I don't want to risk stamping in black ink first and then smearing that black ink when I do my ink blending. So I like to start with limestone ink from Altenew. I'll secure this down to my work surface just using repositionable tape on the back, and then I'm placing the first layer of the stencil over the top. This is going to be for this particular set of the image, it's going to be the tulips, and I'm going to start with a really light pink ink. So this is Cupcake from Tailored Expressions. I am using a small blending brush starting towards the bottom of the tulip and blending up towards the tips. So that way it kind of has that soft transition and leaving the tips more of a really soft pastel pink. Then I'm going to step up that image by using dragon fruit ink. Now, I did have to tap off a lot of ink because dragon fruit has quite a punch to it, but I wanted it to have a punch because I really wanted to add depth and dimension to my tulips. So I kind of try and keep that more down towards the bottom of the tulips. So there's just the one layer for that image for the tulips, and then I shift it over and I'm going to do the leaves. I'm starting with Lime Zest ink. Again, this is from Tailored Expressions. Now, there are some areas you have to be careful with where the stencil doesn't want to stay down. I either hold it with my hand or I will just brush strokes with my blending brush. And then I'm going to add that dimension using Brussels Sprout ink from Tailored Expressions. Now, you can use any colors of ink that you have in your collection. Just make sure you're starting with a very light color and then find a really dark color to be able to get that contrast. And I'm going to do those same exact steps for the second image. This has its own stencil. Again, starting with Cupcake, that really, really light pink for the base layer, and then coming in at the bottom of the tulips with that darker color. Same thing with the leaves, doing that lime zest or that really light green ink, and then coming in with a smaller blending brush and a darker shade of green to add that dimension and contrast. And that's really going to help step your image up. Now that my ink blending is done, I'm going to take this back over to my stamp wheel. I left my stamps on the plate of the stamp wheel, placing that back down in the corner. So that is where I started when I stamped. I'm going to ink this up with the VersaFine ink. So I'm going to be adding the black detail back to the image. You could leave it as is, but I like to add that detail back in. It's really going to add definition to our image. I don't want to overstamp and add too much pressure and distort the lines, but I do want to make sure enough pressure is applied to get all of those fine details. Since I already have some room on my cardstock and I have my stamp wheel out, I picked out two different sentiments, wasn't sure which one I was going to use at first, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp those right away as well. I'm also using the VersaFine ink to do the stamping, but that would be really pretty heat embossed in maybe a gold or silver. For the front of the card, I have a piece of white cardstock cut to 4¼ by 5½. Again, I place this on the sticky mat of the stamp wheel, and I am going to place an A2 masking stencil over the top. So it's going to leave me just a strip in the middle of the cardstock. The rest of the stencil is stuck down to my stamp wheel sticky mat, so it's holding that in place. And then I'm taking a really large, fluffy blending brush. This is from Spellbinders, and that same Lime Zest ink. I'm starting at the bottom and blending my way up towards the top, kind of keeping that top a little bit lighter. I'm going to be stamping over the top of my mask using the pin dot background from Gina K Designs. Now, I had placed this down over the top of my stencil, but I wanted to be really, really careful when I picked it up because I didn't want that stamp to pick up my stencil and move it. Now, what I could have done is just put my plate down and line that background stamp over the top because we can see through. So I would have been able to line that up very easily. Instead of what I'm doing here is just releasing the air bubbles since I didn't put enough pressure down when I had picked it up. So either way is going to work. I inked it up with that same lime zest ink and stamped it down. And when I stamped it, I did not get a clear impression. I got a very scattered impression, and I honestly like this way better. It was just very sporadic, but still added interest to the background. My window or where I ink blended on that panel is really small, so I'm going to clean up my images and trim it down using my paper trimmer, lining up that flat image, and you can trim it down as much or as little as you like. I just really wanted to clean off kind of that white space that was left after my stencil was removed. I'm going to have these images overlapping each other in that kind of window area I created. So I'm going to start by placing one layer down just using a regular tape runner. This first layer that I'm laying down has the most white space where the die did not cut out kind of those areas where the white space is. So I'm going to place that down first, lining that up with the corner of the blended window that I created. I'm going to add the second layer over the top using thin foam squares, and that's going to hide that white area that kind of sticks out because of my blended background. So I chose one of the sentiments that I already pre-stamped and die cut out. I added a thin foam square to the right-hand side because that's the side that's going to overhang the tulips that already have the dimension to it. And I'm going to place that over the top. I love all the beautiful detail that is in this tulip image and how easy it was to use that coordinating stencil. I hope you enjoyed today's video and this has given you some inspiration using your Let's Stamp Together kit from May 2025. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the SCT YouTube channel for more crafty inspiration.